The moment Karen's Pitbull sank its teeth into my disabled son's stomach, something inside me just snapped. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I just grabbed the nearest shovel, and I swear the next scream belonged to her, not me. But you know what? That was just the start. Before the sun even set, I'd break her clipboard, her gate, and believe it or not, something she never thought could bleed. And when I was done, even the dog looked afraid of me. It was supposed to be a quiet morning, right? My son, Jackson, had begged me to let him take his wheelchair out for a spin, new reinforced tires, better brakes, the whole 9 yards. He's 8, but treats that chair like it's some kind of fighter jet. He'd spent the whole week cutting out little stars from construction paper, gluing them to the rims, sketching up dreams that soared higher than most folks can even imagine. Jackson can't walk, but hell if that's ever stopped him from flying. I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, pretending not to watch, just letting him feel independent, you know? He was humming, chalking blue stars on the sidewalk, sleeves dusted like he'd wrestled a cloud. Every now and then he'd look up, flashing that gappy grin of his melting every scar I ever carried. And then boom, reality shatters. I told you before, I don't want that thing lurching across my grass. Karen, standing behind her iron fence, arms crossed, eyes cold, clutching one of those cheesy ceramic garden bricks with the fake butterflies. I started moving fast, but not fast enough. She hurled it. The brick sailed through the air like it had a score to settle and cracked right against Jackson's head. His body jolted, the chair jerked, almost tipping. His chalk rolled away. My mug smashed on the concrete, and even feel myself drop it. But then came the real nightmare. From behind Karen's gate, her pit bull exploded out. No bark, no warning, just pure muscle and teeth locked straight on my son. Jackson screamed, a sound that'll break something in you, and the dog just slammed into him, tipping the chair, latching onto his shirt, no, his skin. Blood. Instantly. His scream turned into something raw and animal. I got there in 3 steps, grabbed a rusty garden spade from a neighbor's flower bed, and swung with everything I had. The flat metal cracked against the dog's hiata, sickening thunk, but it didn't back off. I hit again, harder, and finally it recoiled. Jackson's legs were streaked in red, his hands clamped on the armrests, frozen. The pit bull tried to lunge again, but I blocked it with my body. That's when Karen had the nerve to shout, "You're trespassing, he told the HOA about you and your damn crippled kid." I turned, still holding the spade, hands shaking with a fury I can barely describe. Jackson was whimpering behind me. Karen? She just clutched her clipboard like she was tallying groceries, not watching a child get mauled. "I warned you people," she sneered, stepping up like she owned the block. "Restricted HOA property. Your son was violating the grass line. That dog was only doing its job." That's when I dropped the spade, marched right up to her, and well, let's just say I made sure she couldn't hold that damn clipboard again. Snatched her keys, yanked the clipboard from her grip, and smashed it so hard it split in 2. She screamed, shoved at me, threatening lawsuits, police, the works. I'd already slipped off my belt, wrapped it around her wrists, dragged her to her beloved HOA fence, and tied her right to it, blouse torn, hair mess, her voice echoing down the street, no longer in charge, just exposed. "You unleashed a weapon on my disabled son and called it policy. You're not the HOA president, Karen. You're a sad little tyrant on a leash, and today, that leash snapped." She spit at me and started thrashing. I just turned and picked up Jackson, sat him in his chair. "Am I in trouble?" he whispered. "No, buddy," I said. "She is." As we rolled away, Karen's shouts faded into something that sounded a whole lot like defeat. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. You ever watch someone weaponize a dog against your own kid and just stop at the fence? Yeah, I didn't think so. By the next morning, Karen had struck back hard. A fresh HOA sign was staked in my yard, right where Jackson's chalk stars had been. HOA zone. Mobility impaired units must register or relocate. Someone, had spray painted underneath. "This isn't circus." My son peeked through the curtain and asked what it meant, just whispered, "Is she still mad?" I said no. She's not mad. She's a dictator with a clipboard. And dictators don't get mad. They get methodical. That afternoon, an official violation notice $200 fine was taped to my door. Cause: unlawful disruption, threatening a board member, unregistered medical equipment, motorized wheelchair. I nearly tore the door off its hinges. Stormed down the street, ready to face her, but she was waiting white lawn chair, iced tea, HOA cronies at her side. You should control your temper, she smiled. That's strike two. I shot back. You filed a violation for a wheelchair? That's a child's lifeline, not a motorcycle. She shrugged. HOA policy is law. Maybe you're not used to consequences. I leaned in cold as ice. Lady, I've built consequences. I've led men through hell. You? You hide behind signs and dogs because that's the only control you'll ever have. But something changed that night. Rage wasn't enough. So I made calls. First, to Marcus Highland Navy K-9 handler I'd served with. About a pit bull being used as a weapon, HOA president, leash laws ignored, deliberate attack on a disabled kid. He just said, where and when. Next, to Paula Raisa lawyer who'd spent years dragging corrupt HOA boards to court. You have proof? She asked. Not yet, I said, but I will. Then I'll bury her. So I made a plan. At 3:17 a.m., under cloud cover, I snuck into the HOA maintenance shed. Karen bragged about security, but the keypad was a joke hide, disarmed tougher locks in worse places. Inside, the air stank of fertilizer and plastic. On a rusty filing cabinet labeled board only, I found what I needed: training logs, photos of shredded wheelchair mannequins, printouts labeled K-9 integration pilot. She hadn't just neglected to leash her dog. She trained it to attack kids like Jackson. This was warfare, not negligence. I took photos of everything. By sunrise, my dining table looked like a crime scene. At 4 a.m., I printed anonymous flyers: how your dues are training a weapon. Dropped them in every mailbox. My phone blew up texts, calls, people saying, is this real? That afternoon, a neighbor Andrea knocked, trembling. I have footage, she whispered. Her phone showed it all. Jackson's wheelchair, the chalk, the pit bull charging, Karen just standing there, arms crossed, smiling. That evening, I called a community safety meeting. No HOA permit, just chairs in my garage, a jug of coffee, and 14 neighbors, each with a story. Fines for wind chimes. Threats over mailboxes. Another teen once chased by the same pit bull, just for skateboarding. We've been playing by our rules too long, I said. But control only works on silence. And I'm done being quiet. One clap turned into a room full of applause. For the first time, I saw something stronger than fear: defiance. The next HOA meeting was a showdown. Karen walked in, pit bull at her side, like a villain in some bad movie. First item: a resident has submitted a complaint regarding animal behavior. Would the party in question like to speak? I stood. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to expose. I laid out the documents from her shed. Logs of pit bull training, photos of mannequins in wheelchairs, damning evidence. Karen snorted, called it fabricated, until Andrea stood up and played the video. Jackson's scream, the blood, Karen's cold smile. Marcus stepped up. That pit bull didn't act on instinct. It was trained. Murmurs became shouts. Vote her out. Vote her out. Someone even snatched her gavel away. Court came next. Not a grand room, just flickering lights and a judge who looked like she'd seen too many HOA disputes. Paula, my lawyer, laid it out: pattern of intimidation, animal weaponization, targeted harassment. Karen's lawyer tried the bylaws defense, said Jackson was trespassing. I stood, voice steady. My son is 8. He can't walk, but he believed in stars and sidewalks until a dog tore into him while a woman with a clipboard watched. Andrea submitted the video. Marcus explained the pit bull's pre-command behavior. Karen called us paranoid. I said, you turned a dog into a landmine. The judge was done. Karen Evans, guilty of negligent endangerment, harassment, HOA abuse of power. Fined. Barred from office. Dog removed. Karen didn't cry, she hissed. But it was over. For good. Neighbors clapped Jackson's name. I didn't smile, just exhaled, felt air, not fire. But peace? That took longer. Karen's shadow clung to our neighborhood. Jackson didn't speak for 2 days, flinched every time a dog barked. I sat with him in silence until one morning. He asked, "Can I go outside?" I just opened the door. He rolled to the blood-stained spot, drew a star in blue chalk, then another, until the sidewalk bloomed again. He wrote, "This sidewalk is safe now." Later, kids came to color in the stars, one with a golden retriever Jackson petted, and the healing began. The next HOA board rewrote the rules, tore down Karen's bylaws. They named the playground after Jackson a little memorial, but it meant something. He turned to me, said, "I think I want to be a lawyer like Miss Paula, but maybe with a dog." I laughed. Karen built an empire of fear. We tore it down with truth. My son's smile was the real victory. You'd think that after the storm, calm would come easy. Not so. Sometimes I still wake at 3 a.m. Sure, I'll hear the Pitbull's collar. Sometimes I still double-check the locks. When fear becomes policy, it takes time to believe it's really gone. But the non-morning iron HOA fence came down, the same one Karen used to divide us. The street gathered, coffee in hand, and watched as it crashed. Kids ran, laughing free. Jackson looked up, said, "It's really gone." I nodded, so is she. But we both knew Karen was more than a person. She was a warning. Power doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears pearls and writes fines. After, the new board offered me a seat. I said, "No thanks, I protect one kid. That's enough." But I did ask for one thing: a bench in the garden, a plaque for the children who taught us courage and the parents who fought beside them. "No one crosses this line again," I told Jackson. He grinned. "Not unless they want you to come back with your belt." I laughed. Damn right. They say revenge solves nothing. That healing comes from letting go. But I'll tell you this, when I saw my disabled son bleeding under a snarling dog while a woman with a clipboard watched, letting go was never an option. This wasn't just an accident or negligence. It was power unchecked, cruelty called policy, silence mistaken for order. And it didn't start with the dog. It started with whispers, with rules no one questioned. Karen built her empire one by one until the HOA was a cage. But cages break. And this time, it started with one father, one child, one moment of no more. It wasn't easy. It cost time, trust, innocence. But what we rebuilt was worth it. Jackson doesn't flinch at barking anymore. He knows now not every loud voice has power. Not every rule is right. This neighborhood, we breathe easier, laugh louder, live freer. There will always be more Karens. People who hide cruelty behind rules. But there will also always be folks who stand up and say, "Not here. Not now. Not to us." So, if you've stuck with me this far, let me ask, would you have done the same? What does justice mean in your community? Have you ever watched power abused and wanted to act? Tell me below, share your story, your anger, your hope. Hit like if you believe communities should protect their most vulnerable. Subscribe if you want more stories where silence loses and justice wins. And remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to stay quiet.